This is probably my last actual video where I'm teaching new information. So if you are watching this video for the first, as your first video of the week, you haven't watched the other two videos yet for the other two assignments, then I suggest turning this off and watching the others first, because the first one is called SOHCAHTOA, and that leads into trig part 2, and that leads into this one. So there is a special order. I mean, we can't just watch them out of order, because you'll be lost on this video if you haven't yet watched the other two. So SOHCAHTOA is first, trig part 2 is second, and then trig word problems. So you want to make sure, if you haven't watched those other two videos, turn this off now. Come back to it after you watch the other two videos. So do the other stuff first. Okay. So doing this one, trig word problems. Okay. Dealing with word problems. So you probably waited till last to do this one anyway, just because word problems, nobody likes word problems. Even Miss Cortez and I don't like word problems that much, but you know, they're more applicable to real life, because it's hard to say when you're going to use SOHCAHTOA in real life, but then these problems kind of put it into perspective for you a little bit. There's going to be some words that we use on the problem on this in these assignments called the angle of elevation and the angle of depression. You might see line of sight. Line of sight is from someone's eyes to something. So if this person is looking at the top of the flagpole, that is the line of sight for that person. So angle of elevation, just the word elevate means to lift up from the bottom. So angle of elevation is basically from a bottom parallel line, or a bottom horizontal line. There we go. A bottom horizontal line lifted up to your line of sight. That is angle of elevation. Okay. So it's from a bottom horizontal up to whatever the diagonal line is. If it's a zip line or whatever it is from the bottom horizontal up to that line. Sometimes it's line of sight. I think on this problem it's a line of sight, but sometimes it could be a zip line. Sometimes it could be a wire. Whatever the diagonal line turns out to be, angle of elevation goes from the bottom horizontal to that diagonal line. Okay. Depression, depress. Angle of depression is the other one. So depress is to push down. So like pushing down from the top. So angle of depression is from a top horizontal line down to the line of sight, or the diagonal line, whatever the diagonal line represents. So that is angle of depression. And so those horizontal lines are parallel. If you notice, that makes these two angles make that Z shape. Those are called alternate interior angles. Okay, from chapter 5, from the beginning of the semester. Angle of elevation and angle of depression are alternate interior angles, and if you remember, alternate interior angles are equal. Okay. So whenever it talks about angle of elevation, but let's say your picture only has this angle at the top, we don't have the angle at the bottom, then you could write your angle of elevation in the angle of depression spot, because they're equal, so it works. Or if, say, you have this type of picture and your problem says it talks about angle of depression, you could put that in the angle of elevation spot. So it goes, they're alternate interior to each other. So then you read the words. So you have to read the words to know the situation. You got to draw a picture. So here we have Maria. She is at the top of a cliff and sees a seal in the water. So I'm horrible at drawing seals. But let's see, what can I do? Top of a cliff. So I have a cliff. Cliffs usually go straight down. Okay. She sees a seal in the water. So Maria... Okay. Maria sees a seal in the water. So we have a water. A seal. Okay. I'm just gonna put a point and put S because I'm horrible at drawing seals. Okay, so there is the seal in the water. Maria is looking at it looks like this seal has an open mouth, but it's just a dot. So Maria it sees a seal in the water. So from her eyes to the seal, there we go. Okay, so let's label what we can. Maria is at the top of a cliff. We got that. She sees a seal in the water. I've got my line of sight here. If the cliff is 35 feet above water and the angle of depression is 52 degrees. So the cliff is 35 feet. And the angle of depression, remember, angle of depression goes from the top down. Angle of depression is right here. Okay, that is 52 degrees. Let's see. What is the horizontal distance from the seal to the cliff to the nearest foot? So from the seal to the cliff, that is our X. We have a hint. From Maria's feet to her eyes is 5 feet. So the cliff is 35 feet. And then from her eyes to her feet, well, she's not really jumping. I just didn't draw her touching the ground. She's like hovering, but she shouldn't be hovering. Okay. Well, she's got 1 foot off the cliff. She's just got to be careful. Okay, so that's 5 feet. So that means from the top all the way down, I'll do that over here. From here, from her eyes all the way to the water, we have 35 and 5. That makes 40 feet. We need to know X. We know that this angle of depression is 52 degrees. That means our angle of elevation, that does not go against the cliff. The angle of elevation would be down here against the water. Remember, it makes the Z shape. So this angle and then the water. So that means this is 52 degrees also. So even though it said the angle of depression, we can put that number in the angle of elevation as well, because the angle of depression and the angle of elevation is the same. They're equal. And then we do our SOHCAHTOA to figure out which trig function, because we only have some information. We have to label everything. I'll use purple. Okay, so to label everything, the cliff in the water, I assume, is a right angle because we can only use right triangle. So that means this is the hypotenuse. Our viewpoint is from the seal where our 52 degree angle is. So that is our viewpoint. If we're looking from 52 degrees, remember, across the street is opposites. So this is opposites. And then adjacent would be down here. Okay. So when using SOHCAHTOA, notice we have no information on the hypotenuse. We only have something on the opposite side and the adjacent side. Opposite side is O, adjacent side is A. So we need something with an O and an A together. This does not have an O and an A together. This does not have an O and an A together. This one has an O and an A together. That's what we're using, tangents. So that's how you decide which one to use. Your angle goes next to tangent, if you remember, from SOHCAHTOA. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Tangent, 52 degrees. Opposite over adjacent, O, opposite. The whole opposite, so we need the whole 40 feet, not just 35. Over adjacent, which is x. We need to get x out of the denominator. Just like we did in the other two videos, we have to multiply by x to get it out of the denominator. So I get x times tangent of 52. The x does not go anywhere in that tangent of 52. It's x times tangent of 52 equals 40. So those cancel out. To get x alone, we divide what it's being multiplied with. So tangent of 52 stay together. They cannot be separated. So these cancel out. We get x equals 40 divided by tangent of 52. So we need to use our calculator. I don't need to switch because my variable is not in the angle spot, so I don't need to use my inverse. I use regular. I do 40 divided by. Even if you have an iPhone, you would still do 40 divided by. And then I have tangent of 52. I'm going to start over. I can't remember if I pressed divided by. 40 divided by, there we go. Tangents of 52. Or for those of you with the iPhone, you would put 52 and then tangent and then equals. Now, it says to the nearest foot. It doesn't say to the nearest tenth of a foot or hundredth of a foot. It says the nearest foot, which means we need a whole number, no decimal. So it's 31.2, which is closer to 31 than it is to 32. So x is approximately 31 feet. And that would be our official answer. So some of the problems that you have already have pictures, so you just label the pictures and solve it. Some of the problems you have to draw the picture. So I drew the situation as best as I could. Okay, so this is how you do trig word problems. Do the best that you can. It's a difficult topic, probably the most difficult of the week. So that's it for trig word problems. Have a good day.